Nathan. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it hit me like a punch to the gut. I froze, my blood turning cold as her words echoed in my ears. Nathan? Who the hell was Nathan? We were in bed just moments ago, lost in each other, or so I thought. But now everything felt wrong. The room that had been warm and intimate seconds earlier suddenly felt suffocating. My heart pounded as I pulled back to look at her face. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice tight. Rachel blinked, startled, like she didn't realize what she'd said. "What? You called me Nathan?" I snapped, sitting up. "Who is he?" Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. "No, I didn't. You must have heard me wrong." But I hadn't heard wrong. I knew exactly what I'd heard. And the way she avoided my gaze told me everything I needed to know. "It's late," she muttered, rolling over and pulling the blanket up to her chin. "Can we talk about this tomorrow?" "No," I said sharply, yanking the blanket off her. "We're talking about it now." She sighed, exasperated, but I could see the fear creeping into her expression. "Daniel, please. It's not a big deal. People make mistakes." "Mistakes," I repeated, my voice rising. "Calling your husband someone else's name isn't a mistake. It's betrayal." "I didn't mean it," she cried, sitting up now too. "It slipped out, okay? It doesn't mean anything, but it meant something. It meant everything." I got out of bed, pacing the room as my mind raced. Who was Nathan? Had she been seeing him behind my back? How long had this been going on? Every question burned hotter than the last, fueling the anger bubbling inside me. "Tell me the truth," I demanded, stopping in front of her. "Who is he?" Rachel hesitated, tears welling up in her eyes. "I can't." "You can't, or you won't." I shot back, my fists clenched. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing quietly. For a moment I almost softened, but then I remembered the name she'd whispered. Not mine. Someone else's. By morning, I knew one thing for sure. Our marriage wasn't what I thought it was. And I needed answers, no matter how much they hurt. The next morning, I couldn't focus on anything but one question. Who was Nathan? Rachel avoided me like the plague, pretending to be busy with chores or glued to her phone. Every time I tried to bring it up, she brushed me off with excuses. "Not now, Daniel." Or, "Can we talk later?" But I wasn't about to let her dodge this. Something inside me snapped. I needed to know the truth, even if it destroyed everything. That evening, while Rachel was in the shower, I made my move. Her phone lay on the kitchen counter, unlocked and unguarded. My hands trembled as I picked it up, guilt warring with anger. Was I crossing a line? Maybe. But after what she'd done, I didn't care anymore. I opened her messages first. The screen lit up with a string of texts between her and someone named Nathan. "Last night was amazing." One message read, "I can't stop thinking about you," another said. Each word felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. They weren't just flirty, they were intimate. Plans to meet again. Declarations of love. Betrayal burned in my veins like acid. Then I found the photos. A selfie of them together at a cafe, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. Another picture of her sitting on his lap, laughing. My stomach churned as I scrolled through them, each image confirming my worst fears. Rachel hadn't just slipped up and said the wrong name. She'd been seeing him for months. Months. While I was working late, paying bills, keeping our life together, she was sneaking around behind my back. By the time she walked into the kitchen, towel drying her hair, I had already put her phone down. But the look on my face must have given me away. "What's wrong?" she asked cautiously, glancing at the counter where her phone sat. "You tell me," I said, my voice low and sharp. She froze, her eyes darting toward the phone. Did you go through my stuff?" "Don't change the subject," I shot back. "Who is Nathan, Rachel? And how long has this been going on?" Her face went pale, and for a moment, she didn't speak. Then, slowly, she sank into a chair, covering her face with her hands. "It's not what you think," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Oh, really?" I spat. Because it looks like you've been sleeping with some guy named Nathan while pretending to be my wife. I didn't mean for it to happen, she cried, tears streaming down her face. At first, it was just talking innocent conversations. Then, it became more. Innocent, I repeated, incredulous. You don't accidentally fall into bed with someone else, Rachel. You don't accidentally destroy 10 years of marriage. I know, she shouted, shaking her head violently. I messed up, okay? I messed up so badly. But I never wanted to hurt you. Well, congratulations, I said bitterly. You succeeded. She reached out to touch my arm, but I jerked away. Please, Daniel, let me explain. There's nothing to explain, I snapped. You cheated on me. You lied to me. You threw away everything we built because you got bored, or whatever excuse you're planning to give me. It wasn't boredom, she protested. It was loneliness. You're always working, always distracted. I needed someone who could be there for me. Loneliness? Is that how she justified this? So instead of talking to me, you decided to cheat? I demanded. Instead of fixing whatever problems we had, you threw it all away for some stranger? I'm sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for it to go this far. Too late for apologies, I said coldly. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, their smiles, their laughter, their stolen moments together. It was like poison spreading through my mind, consuming every good memory we'd ever shared. By morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, I didn't say a word to Rachel. I packed a bag in silence, throwing clothes and essentials into a suitcase while she watched from the doorway, her face pale and tear-streaked. Where are you going? She asked, her voice trembling. Away from here, I replied without looking at her. Away from you. Daniel, please, she begged, stepping closer. Don't do this. We can fix this together. I turned to face her, my jaw tight. Fix what, Rachel? The trust you shattered? The years of lies? You think saying sorry will magically undo everything you've done? I know I messed up, she cried, tears streaming down her face again. But I love you. I still love you. Can't we try again? Love isn't enough when you destroy everything we built. I shot back. You chose him over me, over us. And now there's nothing left to save. Her shoulders sagged, defeat written all over her face. Please, don't leave me. I'll do anything. Anything to make this right. Anything? I repeated, my tone icy. You think it's that simple? That you can erase months of betrayal with a few apologies? She didn't answer, just stood there sobbing, her hands clutching the doorframe like it was the only thing holding her up. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the photos, the texts, the way she'd whispered another man's name in our bed. My resolve hardened. I need space, I said finally, zipping up my suitcase. And you need to figure out why you threw away 10 years of your life for someone who doesn't deserve you. Nathan doesn't matter anymore, she shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. He was just a distraction, a mistake. But you're my husband, my family. Please, Daniel. Family? I echoed bitterly. You don't get to call me that after what you did. Not anymore. With that, I grabbed my bag and walked out the door, ignoring her pleas behind me. The sound of her crying followed me down the hallway, but I didn't turn back. Couldn't. As I drove away from the house we'd shared for so long, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, relief. It was over. Whatever we'd had was gone, replaced by betrayal and broken promises. For the first few nights, I stayed at a cheap motel, staring at the ceiling and replaying everything in my mind. How had I missed the signs? Was I really that blind? Friends called, asking if I was okay, but I brushed them off. I wasn't ready to talk about it. Not yet. Instead, I threw myself into work, using long hours as a distraction. At night, I hit the gym, pushing myself harder than ever before. Each drop of sweat felt like a release, a way to purge the anger and hurt festering inside me. Rachel tried reaching out multiple times. Texts, calls, even showing up at my office unannounced. But I ignored her. Every attempt she made to explain herself only reminded me of what she'd done. Forgiveness wasn't an option, not now, maybe not ever. By the end of the week, I'd rented a small apartment downtown. It wasn't much, but it was mine. A fresh start, free from the memories of her betrayal. As I unpacked my things, I realized something painful. Leaving Rachel wasn't just about escaping her lies. It was about reclaiming myself. Because somewhere along the way, I'd lost sight of who I was outside of being her husband. Now, I had a chance to find that person again, even if it meant starting over alone. Walking away from Rachel was supposed to bring me peace, but instead, it left me with a burning need for justice. She had humiliated me, betrayed me, and acted like her apologies could erase the pain she caused. But I wasn't about to let her off that easily. If she thought leaving me would be the end of it, she was wrong. I started small, subtle things designed to make her question everything. The first step was reclaiming my independence. I bought new clothes, got a haircut, and hit the gym hard. Every time Rachel saw me, I wanted her to notice the changes. I wanted her to see the man she'd thrown away. Then came the rumors. Through mutual friends, I let slip that I was seeing someone. It wasn't true. I didn't have a girlfriend, but I made sure the story spread quickly. Soon enough, Rachel heard about it. One evening, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, her face flushed with anger. "Is it true?" she demanded, stepping inside before I could stop her. "Are you dating someone else already?" I smirked, leaning casually against the counter. "What if I am? You didn't exactly leave me much choice, did you?" "That's not fair," she cried, tears welling up in her eyes. "You know I still love you. I've apologized 100 times. Apologies don't fix betrayal," I said coldly. "And besides, why should you care who I'm with now? You moved on first." She flinched at my words, guilt flashing across her face. "Please, Daniel, don't do this. Don't punish me like this." "Oh, I'm not punishing you," I replied, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "This is just me moving on. Something you clearly did months ago." Her desperation fueled me. For years, I'd been the one bending over backward to keep her happy, to make our marriage work. Now, seeing her unravel because of me gave me a twisted sense of satisfaction. But I didn't stop there. I began attending social events we used to go to together, parties, dinners, even the occasional night out with friends. Each time, I made sure to flirt openly with other women, laughing loudly and drawing attention to myself. Rachel always found out somehow, whether through gossip or witnessing it firsthand. At one gathering, she cornered me near the bar, her voice low but fierce. "Why are you doing this? Are you trying to humiliate me?" "No," I said, meeting her gaze evenly. "I'm just showing you what it feels like to lose something, or someone, you took for granted." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Instead, she stormed off, leaving me alone with my drink. Watching her walk away felt good, empowering even. For once, I held all the cards. The final piece of my plan involved Nathan. I tracked him down through Rachel's phone records. A risky move, but worth it. I sent him an anonymous message. "Do you really think she loves you? Or are you just a rebound?" It didn't take long for the seed of doubt to grow. Rachel later admitted they'd argued after he confronted her about their relationship. Apparently, he accused her of using him to escape her problems. By the time she realized I was behind it, the damage was done. Through it all, I told myself this wasn't about revenge. It was about balance. Making her feel the same pain she'd inflicted on me. But deep down, I knew the truth. Part of me enjoyed watching her squirm. Daniel's revenge was relentless, and it was working. With each passing day, I felt myself unraveling further. The man I once loved, the man who used to hold me close and laugh at my jokes, was gone, replaced by someone cold, calculating, and determined to make me pay for what I'd done. And honestly, I deserved it, but that didn't make it any easier to bear. It started with the rumors. Friends casually mentioned his new girlfriend, painting her as perfect in every way. Beautiful, smart, successful. At first, I tried to convince myself it wasn't true. Daniel wouldn't move on so quickly. Would he? But then I saw him at a party, laughing with another woman, their bodies close, his hand resting lightly on her back. My stomach churned as jealousy surged through me. Who is she? I asked one of our mutual friends later that night, trying to sound casual. No idea, they shrugged. But he seems happy, doesn't he? Happy. The word stuck in my throat like bile. How could he be happy without me? Without us? Then came the arguments. Every time I confronted him, he shut me down with biting remarks or icy indifference. You don't get to act hurt, he said during one particularly heated exchange. Not after what you did. I know, I shouted, tears streaming down my face. I messed up, okay? I admit it. But can't we fix this? Can't we try again? He just stared at me, his expression unreadable. Fixing takes two people, Rachel. And right now, I'm not sure I even recognize you anymore. His words cut deeper than anything else. Because he was right, I barely recognized myself these days. The guilt consumed me, gnawing at my insides until I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I replayed every moment of our marriage in my head, searching for where it all went wrong. Was it my fault? His? Both of ours? Desperation drove me to do things I never thought I'd do. I showed up at his apartment late at night, begging for forgiveness. I sent long, tearful texts apologizing over and over again. Once, I even tried seducing him, wearing the lingerie he used to love. But nothing worked. He looked at me like I was a stranger, a ghost haunting the edges of his life. Things got worse when Nathan pulled away. After receiving that anonymous message, he became distant, questioning whether I truly cared about him or if he was just a rebound. We argued constantly, his accusations mirroring my own fears. Eventually, he ended things, leaving me completely alone. The loneliness was suffocating. For months, I'd convinced myself that cheating on Daniel was justified, that I needed excitement, freedom, something different. But now, stripped of everything familiar, I realized how empty those desires had been. Nathan hadn't made me happier. He'd only highlighted how broken I already was. One evening, sitting alone in the dark, I picked up my phone and scrolled through old photos of Daniel and me. There we were, smiling at our wedding, laughing on vacation, cuddled up on the couch watching movies. Seeing those images brought fresh waves of regret crashing over me. What had I done? How could I have thrown away something so precious? I wanted to call him, to beg him one more time to take me back. But deep down, I knew it was too late. Even if he forgave me, and I doubted he ever would, the trust was gone. Our marriage was irreparably damaged, and it was all my fault. So instead of calling, I cried. For hours, I sat there, sobbing into my hands, wishing I could turn back time and undo everything. But no amount of tears could change the past. All I could do now was pick up the pieces of my shattered life and hope someday I might find a way to forgive myself. It all came to a head one rainy evening. A storm both outside and within us. Rachel showed up at my apartment unannounced, drenched from the downpour, her mascara smudged under red-rimmed eyes. She looked broken, defeated, nothing like the confident woman who had once walked out of our marriage for someone else. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice trembling as she stepped inside. I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall. What now, Rachel? Another apology? Another excuse? No, she whispered, shaking her head. This isn't about excuses. It's about truth. Truth, I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean like how you cheated on me with Nathan? Or how you lied to my face while planning your escape? It wasn't just about him, she shouted, her voice cracking. Yes, I slept with Nathan. Yes, I betrayed you. But it wasn't because I stopped loving you. It was because I felt like I'd lost you long before that. Her confession caught me off guard. What are you talking about? You were never there, Daniel, she cried, standing up to face me. Physically, maybe, but emotionally? You checked out years ago, always working late, ignoring me, treating our marriage like a chore instead of a partnership. I begged you to spend time with me, to listen to me, but you acted like my feelings didn't matter. That's not true. I shot back, though doubt crept into my mind. Had I really been that absent? It is true, she insisted, tears streaming down her face. And when Nathan came along, he made me feel seen again. He listened to me, cared about me, treated me like I mattered. I didn't plan to fall for him. I just wanted to feel alive again. And by the time I realized what I'd done, it was too late. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Was she right? Had I neglected her without even realizing it? Memories surfaced. Nights spent glued to my laptop. Weekends buried in work projects, brushing off her attempts to connect. Maybe I had taken her for granted. But even if that were true, it didn't excuse her betrayal. So what now? I asked bitterly. You expect me to forgive you because you were lonely? Because I wasn't perfect? No, she admitted softly. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the whole story. To understand that I didn't cheat because I stopped loving you. I cheated because I thought you'd already stopped loving me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The rain pounded against the windows, filling the silence between us. Her confession forced me to confront uncomfortable truths, not just about her, but about myself. Finally, I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Rachel, I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Too much has happened. I know, she whispered, nodding. And I don't blame you. But please, don't let this destroy you too. Don't let your anger consume you. Her plea lingered in the air as she turned to leave, pausing briefly at the door. Thank you for showing me what it feels like to lose someone you love, she said quietly. I hope someday you find peace. And with that, she was gone. As I stood there alone, watching the rain wash away her footprints, I realized something painful yet liberating. Revenge hadn't healed me. It had only prolonged the pain. Now, faced with the possibility of moving forward, I knew the choice was mine to make, to hold on to bitterness or to start rebuilding myself piece by piece.